Marble does not yield to hand tools the way granite or limestone does. Strike marble with a chisel, and it spalls. Above the modern town of Demre, on the Lycian coast of southern Turkey, a marble cliff 50 meters high has been hollowed into a necropolis. More than 100 chambers have been documented across 3 sections of the cliff. Each chamber was sealed by a sliding stone door, weighing several hundred kilograms, set into precision-cut tracks. None of the doors were opened by their last visitors. All of them were blown apart with explosive charges by tomb robbers who could not move them. The tool marks on the marble do not match what hand chisels leave on marble in any reproducible test. This is ancient Myra. The town below preserves the church where the historical Saint Nicholas served as bishop in the 4th century AD. The tombs above are older. Conventional dating places them in the Lycian period, 5th to 4th century BC, with continued use into the Roman occupation. They are catalogued as part of one of the most studied rock-cut necropolises in Anatolia. The first comprehensive archaeological surveys at the site were carried out by Jürgen Borchardt between 1965 and 1968. Regular excavations resumed in 2009 under Nevzat Chevik. Across the 3 necropolises mapped to date, the sea necropolis west of the theater, the southern necropolis east of it, and the river necropolis below the Acropolis, 104 chambers are documented, of which 23 carry inscriptions in either Lycian or Greek. Additional chambers run along less accessible cliff sections that have not been comprehensively catalogued. The carved chambers in those sections are not different in design from the visible ones. They are simply higher up the cliff. The doors are an architectural typology. Each chamber has a sliding stone slab between 2 and 3 meters tall, between 15 and 20 centimeters thick, several hundred kilograms in weight, originally seated into a pair of grooved tracks cut into the chamber wall. The grooves are reproducible across the necropolis. They are the same depth, the same profile, the same separation, chamber after chamber. The door slid laterally to seal the entrance. Almost none of the doors are intact. The overwhelming majority of chamber entrances show explosive damage, fractured rimstone, displaced ceiling blocks, door slabs themselves shattered into recovered fragments scattered across the chamber floor. Whoever last entered these chambers did not unlock them. They blew them open. The tool marks on the cliff face do not look like hand chisel work. The most reproducible category is a curved, continuous striation, roughly 25 centimeters wide, that runs across the marble in long, parallel cuts. The cuts are several meters in length and several centimeters deep. They terminate without overshoot or correction marks. A second category is finer, a zigzag stepped pattern of small, uniform indentations advancing at a regular interval, like the trace of a drilling bit advancing through a forced rotation. A third category is finer still. Brush-fine striations cover large surface areas, as if the same tool set included a small detail bit alongside the larger circular ones. All 3 categories appear on the same chambers, on the same cliff section. The implication is not 3 separate tool traditions arriving at the same site at different times. It is one tool set, with a range of interchangeable bits, scaled from multi-meter circular cuts down to detail finishing, used by the same hands. This matters because marble is a comparatively soft stone, but a brittle one. Calcite, the principal mineral in marble, has a Mohs hardness of 3. A bronze chisel will mark it, an iron chisel will cut it. But marble's response to percussive impact is to spall, to throw off chips along its crystal cleavage planes, not to flow. The continuous striation marks on the Myra cliff face do not look like spall fields. They look like material that has been removed by a continuous mechanical cut, the way a circular saw or a router cuts wood. Reproducing them with hand chisels in test conditions has not been documented. Reproducing them with bronze tooling has not been documented. The conventional explanation is hand chiseling in a high-skill apprentice tradition over a long period. The marks themselves do not look discontinuous. Inside the chambers, the standardization is clearer. The interior plan is repeated across the necropolis. A rectangular room a few meters on each side, a flat ceiling, a stone bench shelf running along 1 or 2 walls, and a series of small carved recesses set into the walls at regular intervals. Some chambers preserve a second internal door or a partition wall, also stone, also fitted with sliding tracks. The wall recesses are too shallow to receive a body. They are also wrong in proportion, too tall in some, too narrow in others, and arranged at heights that would not accommodate a laid corpse. They look like sockets for a wooden frame, joists, beams, internal cabinetry that was removed or has decayed. None of the chambers visited preserves any organic residue consistent with continued burial use. On the outer rim of many of the chambers, the marble shows carbonization. A dark band of soot or thermal alteration runs along the upper edge of the entrance. The pattern is repeated across multiple chambers in the same section of cliff. It is consistent with sustained fire at the entrances, not with weathering. Combined with the explosive damage to the doors, the picture that emerges is of post-construction violence. Fires set at the entrances, blasting charges placed at the door slabs, contents looted from inside. Whether this happened in antiquity, in the medieval period, or recently, is not always determinable from the damage pattern alone. In some chambers, the explosive fragmentation is fresh enough that displaced door material has not yet been cleared away. Below the necropolis is the Roman period theater at Myra. Its outer wall preserves a series of carved reliefs, depicting figures in what appears to be ceremonial or narrative interaction. Several of the panels show two figures alongside each other, where the carved proportions place one substantially taller than the other. The smaller figure, if read at normal human stature, would set the scale of the larger figure at over 3 meters. The carvings are stylized rather than naturalistic, and the proportional difference may be hierarchical convention, a common motif in Greco-Roman provincial relief in which rank is signaled by carved size. But the consistency of the mismatch across multiple panels is unusual. Faces and genitals on most surviving figures have been systematically defaced, a region-wide Anatolian iconoclasm pattern with multiple proposed causes, ranging from late antique Christian destruction to medieval reinforcement under Islamic rule. The Acropolis, above the necropolis, is reachable only by a 20-kilometer route from the opposite side of the mountain. There is no path between them. From the Acropolis side, no direct line of approach to the necropolis cliff exists. From the necropolis side, no route up to the Acropolis exists. Some of the rock-cut chambers themselves sit at heights along the cliff that have no surviving access. No platform sockets in the cliff face, no scaffold mount holes, no terrace remnants below. Conventional explanations include now decayed wooden scaffolding and rope and platform suspension systems. Neither leaves a recoverable signature in the cliff face. Neither is documented in surviving inscriptions or contemporary descriptions. The chambers were cut. How the carvers stood while cutting them is not preserved. Adjacent to the necropolis cliff, excavated from approximately 10 meters beneath modern greenhouse soil, is a Roman period amphitheater of substantial scale. The marble facing preserves an unusual stratification, alternating bands of clay and pebble inclusions running through the stone, indicating the marble was deposited in a marine environment with intermittent terrestrial influx events. Some of the worked facings are thin enough that a laser pointed at one side will pass through to the other. Marble at this thinness becomes optically translucent. The translucency itself is a known property of natural marble at the right thinness, well documented for Carrara and other high-grade quarries. What is unusual is the deliberate worked dimension. Producing marble surfaces near translucency, repeatedly and by intent, is an engineering choice. It implies a final stage finishing technique not preserved in the surviving Lycian or Roman tool record. The conventional explanation rests on 3 claims, each testable. The first is that the necropolis is Lycian period funerary architecture designed for burial use, with the sliding door typology being a recognized regional form documented across Lycian sites including Pinara and Tlos, with structurally related rock-cut funerary forms also catalogued at Kaunas in neighboring Caria. This is correct. The chamber tomb, with sliding stone door, is a recognized regional funerary type. The second is that the chambers were carved by skilled apprentice tradition stonecutters, using bronze and iron hand tools over the course of generations. This is plausible at scale, but does not yet have a published reproduction of the specific continuous striation tool mark in marble using period-appropriate tooling. The third is that the standardization across chambers reflects a recognized regional workshop tradition. This is consistent with the architectural pattern, but does not address the tool mark category itself. The labor budget for the necropolis is not the bottleneck claim. A 200-year construction window with continuous workshop activity is sufficient to account for several hundred chambers if the cutting rate is granted. The cutting rate is what the tool marks contest. The marks are observable. The reproduction is the open question. Marble accepts hand tools but does not flow under them. The Myra cliff is hollowed across 50 meters of vertical face. The doors weigh several hundred kilograms. The marks on the stone do not match the tools attributed to the period. The explanation has not been reproduced. If you want to support deeper research and found this journey as fascinating as we did, subscribe to Ancient Epochs for more.